All right, first things first, let's really break down what Power BI is at its core. Okay, so don't just think of Power BI as some simple chart making tool. It's more like a complete data kitchen. Seriously, it's where you gather all your ingredients, that's your raw data, and then you get to prepare it, clean it up, and cook up these beautiful interactive reports that tell a really compelling story. So here's something important to know. Power BI isn't just one thing. It's actually a toolkit with three main parts that all work together to bring your data to life. And these three parts are pretty much the foundation of everything. First up, you've got Power BI Desktop. That's your main workshop where you'll build your reports. Then there's the Power BI Service. That's the online hub for sharing and working with your team. And finally, you've got the Power BI mobile app, so you can check your insights from anywhere. So here's how it all connects, nice and simple. You do all the heavy lifting, the building of your reports, right there in Power BI Desktop. Then, once you're happy with it, you publish it up to the Power BI service to share with everyone. And from there, your team can pull it up on their phones with the mobile app. See? Build, share, and view. Okay, so we've got the tools. Now, what's the actual process like? Well, creating a report in Power BI is basically a journey, and it follows a really clear six-step path from raw data all the way to a finished product. Think of this as your roadmap. It all starts with step one. You connect to your data, no matter where it's stored. Then, step two, you transform it. This part is so important. It's where you clean everything up and make sure it's reliable. Step three is modeling the data. A good way to think of this is like connecting the dots between all your different pieces of information. After that, the fun part. You get to create visuals with charts and graphs. And finally, you publish and distribute your report so you can get those awesome insights to the people who need them. And here's a key thing to remember. Those first four steps we just talked about, the connecting, transforming, modeling, and visualizing, all of that happens right inside Power BI Desktop. That's your creation space. It's where you do all the detective work to uncover the story that's hidden in your data. All right, so you've built your masterpiece. Now what? Well, now it's time to share it. You just hit publish, and it goes from your desktop application up to the Power BI service. And from there, you can share it with your team, build out these really cool interactive dashboards, and even control exactly who gets to see what.
Okay, let's take a step back and look at the big picture, just to see how this entire workflow fits together.
And this really brings it all home. You can see the whole journey right here. You start by building on your desktop, then you share it up in the cloud, and then you and your team can access it on your phone. It's a really smooth, seamless ecosystem for all your data. And really, that's the whole point of Power BI. It's all about taking that feeling of being totally lost in your data and turning it into a moment of, aha, I get it now. It gives you the power to find those hidden stories and then share them with the people who need to hear them. So, you've got the roadmap now. You see how it all works. The only question left is, what story does your data want to tell? Hello and welcome. If you've ever looked at a spreadsheet and just felt completely lost in a sea of numbers, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to go through the basics of Power BI together, one simple step at a time. Think about it. You open up a file, and what do you see? Just this wall of numbers, rows and columns that seem to go on forever. It's really tough to see the story that's hidden in all that data, isn't it? Yeah, it can feel pretty overwhelming. But what if there was a really straightforward way to cut through all that noise? Well, there is. By the end of this little explainer, you're going to understand the core building blocks Power BI uses to turn all that data confusion into crystal clear stories. All right, let's get started. Everything, and I mean everything, begins with a solid foundation for your data. Think of this as the bedrock for everything else we're about to build on top of it. Now, in Power BI, this foundation has a bit of a technical sounding name, the semantic model. I know, but trust me, the idea behind it is super simple. It's really just about doing the prep work, gathering your data, cleaning it up, and making sure all the different pieces connect in a way that makes sense. So, how's it done? It's really just a three-step process. First, you connect to your data. And this is so powerful because you can pull in data from totally different places, like a sales spreadsheet and your marketing data. Next, you clean it all up. And finally, you create relationships between your tables, which is just a fancy way of telling Power BI how everything fits together. The absolute best way to think about this is with Legos. You wouldn't just dump a giant bin of bricks on the floor and hope a spaceship just appears, right? No way. You'd sort them first. All the reds go here, the little squares go there. Your semantic model is doing the exact same thing, organizing all your data bricks. So when it's time to build, it's actually easy and fun. Okay, so our data bricks are all sorted. Now for the really fun part, building with them. This is where we start to bring our data to life with some cool visuals and reports. This is where we create what Power BI calls visuals. We're talking about your bar charts, your pie charts, all those graphs. And the best part, you don't have to write a single line of code. It is all drag and drop. You just pick the data you want to see, and boom, Power BI turns it into a clear visual for you. Now, once you combine a few of these visuals onto a single page, you've just created what's called a report. Think of a report like a chapter in a book about your data. Each page can focus on a different angle, letting you dive in and really explore the details. But, digging into all those details isn't always what you need. Sometimes you just want the highlights, right? The big picture, at a glance. And for that, Power BI has one final, really powerful tool. And this brings us to a really important difference: reports versus dashboards. Think of it like this. A report is kind of like a microscope. It's designed for that deep, detailed exploration. A dashboard, on the other hand, that's like a telescope. It gives you that high-level, at-a-glance overview of your most important numbers. So here's how it actually works. A dashboard lets you pin the most important visuals from all your different reports onto one single screen. It's kind of like the front page of a newspaper. It gives you all the essential headlines in one place, instantly. So let's just take a quick step back and put it all together. Let's recap that journey, from that confusing wall of numbers to a tool that actually helps you make decisions. It's a really logical flow when you see it laid out, isn't it? You start with your semantic model, that's your foundation. Then use visuals as your building blocks. You put those blocks together to build a detailed story in your report. And finally, you show off the biggest headlines in your dashboard summary. And that's pretty much it. It really is just about putting a few simple, powerful building blocks together in the right order. So now that you know the basics, the real question is, what story is waiting to be discovered inside your data?
Hello and welcome. So, you've done it. You've put in all the work and built a really great Power BI report. But now comes that big question. What's next? Creating the report is really just step one. The real magic happens when you get those insights to the people who actually need them. Let's walk through exactly how to do that.
It's a super common feeling, right? You've spent hours connecting data, designing visuals, and getting everything just perfect. You hit that publish button, and then you're kind of left wondering, okay, what do I do now? How do you take this awesome thing you've built and share it? Don't worry, we're going to clear that up right now.
By the end of this short explainer, you'll know exactly what to do. We're going to cover 3 key things: how to organize all your work so it's not a mess, how to share it like a total pro, and my personal favorite, how to set your data to update all by itself.
Okay, first things first. Before we even think about sharing, we've got to get organized. Seriously. Getting this part right from the very beginning is going to make everything else you do in the Power BI service so much easier. So, the heart of organization in Power BI is something called a workspace. And the absolute best way to think of a workspace is just like a project folder on your computer. It's the one place where you keep everything for a specific project. All your reports, your data, your dashboards, all tucked away neatly together.
Now, you're going to see 2 main types of workspaces. The first is called My Workspace. Think of this as your personal, private sandbox. It's the perfect spot to play around and test things before anyone else sees them. But when you're ready for teamwork, that's when you use a shared workspace. That's where you and your team can collaborate on projects together.
Over in the Power BI service, you'll see your workspaces right there on the side. You've got My Workspace for all your private stuff, and then right below, you can create new shared workspaces for all your team projects. It's a simple first step, but trust me, it prevents a lot of confusion later on.
So, your reports are neatly organized in the right workspace. Awesome. Now it's time to actually share them, but we want to do this in a professional, controlled way. And that's where something called apps come into play. And this is a really crucial point. While, yes, you can just share a link to an individual report, Power BI apps are the way to go. An app bundles all your related reports and dashboards into one single, polished package. It gives your audience a clean, easy-to-use experience and makes your work look super professional. It's just a much better way to share.
And creating an app is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Seriously. First, you set it up, give it a name and a description. Second, you pick the content, which reports you want to put inside it. And third, you define the audience, who actually gets access. That's it. When you go to build your app, you'll see those 3 steps we just talked about laid out right at the top: setup, content, and audience. You just follow along, and with just a few clicks, you've wrapped up all your hard work into a professional app for your audience to use.
Now, what if you want to get amazing insights, but you don't really want to build a whole report from scratch? Well, you are in luck, because there's a fantastic feature for that called template apps. The idea here is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Instead of starting with a blank canvas, you use a report that's already been built for a service you probably use every day, like Microsoft 365 or GitHub. You just connect your account, and Power BI pretty much does all the rest of the work for you. What's really cool is just how many of these template apps are available. If you check out the App Source gallery, you'll find pre-built reports for dozens and dozens of popular services. If your company uses any of these, you are literally just a few clicks away from having a powerful report ready to go. And here's what you get: this super detailed report on GitHub activity showing all the top contributors and pull requests. This was generated from a template app. It took almost no work at all. It's an incredible time saver.
All right, so we've organized our work and we've shared it, but there's just one more critical piece to this whole puzzle: making sure the data everyone is looking at is actually up to date.
Because, let's be honest, a beautiful report that's showing numbers from last month, it's not very helpful for making decisions today. The whole goal is to give people fresh, relevant insights, which means we need a way to update our data automatically without having to do it by hand every single morning. The solution is a feature called Scheduled Refresh, and it does exactly what it sounds like. You just tell Power BI how often you want it to go and grab the latest data from your sources, whether that's every day at 8 a.m., once a week, or even several times a day. Setting this up is super straightforward. You just go into your Datasets settings, find the Scheduled Refresh section, and flip it on. From there, you can pick the frequency, the time zone, and the exact time you want the update to happen. You set it once, and you can just forget about it, knowing your reports will always have the latest info. So there you have it. Those are the 3 core things you need to know about the Power BI service. It really all boils down to this simple workflow. First, you organize your stuff into workspaces. Then, you share it professionally using apps. And finally, you keep your data fresh by setting up a scheduled refresh. You now have the complete roadmap to take your work from just being on your computer to actually being used by others. The only thing left is to put it into action. So think about those reports you've been working on. Now that you know the steps, which one are you going to share first?
Hello and welcome. I am so glad you're here. Today, we're going to do a quick and friendly check-in on some of the core ideas in Power BI. You know, getting these fundamentals down is really the key to everything else, so let's just make sure we've got a solid foundation to build on. So are you ready? And hey, remember, this is not a test. It's just a simple way to boost your confidence and make sure we're all on the same page. Let's get started with the big picture. First up, we're going to talk about the Power BI workflow. Before you dive into all the little details of any tool, it's just so important to understand the typical journey. You know, how work actually flows from the very beginning to the very end. Okay, so here's our first question for you. Just take a second and think about the normal sequence of events. Where do you start building? Where does it get published? And where do people actually go to see all your hard work? All right, here are your options. Do you start in the service, or do you get things going in desktop and then share it out? Or maybe you start right on your phone. Just think, where does all the real heavy listing happen? And the correct answer is that second option. If you got that, awesome job. The key thing to remember here is the difference between the tools. Power BI Desktop is your workshop, right? It's where you build and shape everything. The Power BI service, that's more like your gallery or your storefront. It's where everyone goes to see the finished product. And this visual just lays it out so clearly. You can see it. Step 1, create your report in desktop. Step 2, share it to the service. And then, step 3, that's when your audience gets to interact with it either on the web or on their phone. It's a really simple, logical flow when you see it like this. Great, now that we've got the workflow down, let's move on. In this next part, we're going to look at the actual building blocks, the fundamental stuff that you work with inside Power BI. So what are the most basic pieces that every single Power BI project is made of? What do you absolutely have to have before you can even think about making your first chart or graph? Okay, you've got 2 choices here. Is it tiles and visualizations? Or is it semantic models and reports? Think about what has to come first. What's the real foundation? Yes, the answer is semantic models and reports. This is such a critical concept Because while the visualizations are the cool things you see, the semantic model is the powerful engine working behind the scenes. It's the organized data layer that makes everything else even possible. I love this way of thinking about it. The semantic model is literally the foundation of your house. You can't put up walls, you can't install windows, those are your visualizations and reports, without having that solid foundation in place first. It's the source of truth for everything. All right, you're doing great. We've talked about how you build and what you build with. Now, for the last piece of the puzzle, how do you package all of your amazing work up and deliver it to your audience in a really clean, professional way? So, let's say you have a whole set of related reports and dashboards, and you want to share them all as one single neat bundle. What does Power BI call that collection? Let's take a look at our options. Is that bundle called the canvas? Maybe a scheduled refresh? Or is it simply an app? Which of these sounds like the right term for a package of your work that you'd share with other people? You got it. It's an app. This is how you give your users a really polished, curated experience. I mean, instead of sending them links to 5 different reports, you just bundle them all into one simple app for super easy access. And you know, this shipping container analogy is perfect. You've built all this amazing stuff, your reports and dashboards. Well, the app is just the container you put it all into so you can deliver it all together, nice and neat, to your audience. Wow, we have covered a lot of ground pretty quickly, and you've done an awesome job. So let's take a quick second to pull everything together and just review the 3 main ideas we talked about. So here are the key takeaways. First, the workflow. You create in desktop, you share to the service, and then you interact anywhere. Second, the building blocks. The semantic model is the foundation that lets you build your reports. And third, the delivery. An app is how you package it all up for sharing. Simple as that. And that's it. You've totally nailed this check-in on the Power BI fundamentals. So the real question now is, what are you curious about? Which of these ideas, the workflow, the building blocks, or the delivery, are you going to dive into next on your learning journey? Thanks so much for joining me today.